From Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, this is Raf's Cast, Tales from MohawkAd, episode 13. This time we have Bill Schaefer, Associate Creative Director at Mccann Canada, and alumni from our program, discussing clients, brief process, and as usual, all the kind of hints and tips you want as a junior or to get your internship in the industry. Let's do it. So don't forget to follow us. We are on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and YouTube. All right, here we go. Let's start. Welcome to Raf's Cast, Tales from MohawkAd. Bill Schaefer is here today, class of 2007, alumni from the Mohawk Advertising Program. Thank you so much for giving time. Bill is an Associate Creative Director at Mccann Canada, have years experience and amazing work under his belt, and I'm very glad to have you here today with me, Bill.
Thanks, Raf. Class of 2007. I mean, I hadn't thought about that. Well, I mean, quarantine has definitely reminded me that I'm getting very fat, but also now I'm getting old, I guess, too. So
no, you guys are young. Yeah, I'm the old guy here. So
all right, I won't challenge that. Yeah.
Bill, yes, class of started 2004 and until 2007. So good times and F-wing, F-134, all that kind of stuff. So tell me a little bit about how do you remember those days starting the advertising program? What was in your mind? Like, oh, I got into the advertising.
Well, I mean, I think one of the days that stands out most to me is the day that we have to make that decision, right? Between, and I'm not sure if it's the same now, but when I was there, it was your first year, you take a little bit of everything. You're taking some business, you're taking media, you're taking creative classes. And then after that, you have to make the decision of
it's still happening.
It's still happening.
It's happening now. You need to do it now. Yes.
Yeah. That's a big day. I mean, I remember that one really clearly and being told very upfront about, that it's challenging to succeed in the creative side of the business. And when I when I made the decision to go creative, all of my friends were going business. So that was, it was scary, but, I've always believed in myself, maybe a little bit too much at times, but I definitely did then. That's like, I think one of the big first memories I had. That was just a big day. That was scary.
Well, yeah, it is scary. I think when they'll have to make those kind of decisions, it's kind of I'm already have to make a big decision on the streaming.
Yeah.
And I remember I have guys. I have this one picture with Bill, and I have this in the Mac lab. And the Mac lab was still those egg.
Yeah.
Macs.
With all the colors on them, with the colorful clear plastic. Yeah.
Yeah, the clear plastic. And that is an amazing picture, and I think it tells a lot of the. I think there's a lot of a good vibe in the class, a good vibe of learning, and I think that was very important.
I do remember your class being one of the best because it was when I think people. It was I think there was just a little bit less structure in it, and it felt, to be really fair, very close to what being in a creative environment is like in actual advertising. Because you're working with your, we were often split up into pairs. You're working with your partner, but you're also getting to see, just by the nature of the lab, what everyone else is doing, and there's this bit of competitiveness, and
yes.
People were building on ideas together, and that is very much something I've missed over the past year, not being in the office, but we've found ways to sort of simulate it. I mean, but I do remember it being it was a creative environment. It kind of set me up set me up for working in advertising. You had to get used to it. You had to get used to working through distractions
Mm-hmm.
pretty quick, even
Yes.
though I was a distraction, I think, for most of that.
Well, distractions help a lot, and I think it's part of the work environment.
Hmm.
On the especially creative, especially being creative and brainstorming that kind of stuff. But
Yeah,
I think once you mature, I think you learn how to focus more and to put a filter and get exactly where you want with your mindset. I think.
yeah,
Uh, I will get back, to that time when you get your work at Cosette. How was the feeling of leaving and get your work, and how you decide to go to copy instead of art direction? So, how was that decision?
yeah. I'd like to say it was a big um, philosophical decision, but really, because I did want to be an art director, but really, I sucked at art direction. It was my art direction was the worst, and but I've been writing a lot of my own headlines, and so thankfully, I was a much better writer than art director, and that sort of influenced my decision to pursue that. As far as cassette, you know, it, it was really exciting because it's my first job, of course, and it's in downtown Toronto at the time, and very, very exciting. It wasn't the best fit for me because it was starting in direct mail. Um,
Hmm.
so for me, I've always liked the more inventive, the more um, kind of technology focused aspect of advertising. So to start my first job in basically junk mail uh, wasn't the best decision, but hey, it all worked out, I guess. Yeah.
Definitely work out. But do you think the direct marketing part of it that a lot of people say, "Oh my God, you don't want to do that"? There's a kind of a learning also in that kind of process
Yeah.
somehow, especially for a writer.
Yeah. Especially for a writer. I mean, it definitely forced me to develop my craft. Like, you're not going to jump into right away doing huge sprawling campaigns. You're writing long content, you're writing short content. So it forced me, yeah, to develop kind of before I ran, I learned to walk. That's
Hmm.
definitely true. I'm thankful for that. Um,
How was the process of getting the internship? You got a interview, or you get a book, or somebody have a network on cassette? How was that process? Do you remember that?
yeah, I do. I mean, I was fortunate because I partnered with someone in class, and we went into interviews together. And then it was
Okay.
actually a former Mohawk grad um, who introduced us to the creative directors at Blitz at Cassette. So
Who was with you?
I interviewed and I worked there for a while with Joey Gatto.
Oh, Joe Gatto.
Yeah,
Oh, Mr. Gatto.
yeah,
Nice guy.
yeah. What a great guy. Yeah, what a
Yes.
legend. And then it was Yelka Garrick, I believe, who was the one that introduced us to Roel Sanchez at Cassette. And we'd gone and talked to a few other places. I think, um, knowing Yelka there really made it a
Hmm.
comfortable place to go first, like having someone there and being a former Mohawk grad. So it was definitely set up all through Mohawk in some way or other.
That's very cool. I will talk about the places that you work with, and then we were talking a little bit more the work,
Sure.
okay? Because there's a lot of amazing work that you did. Uh, After being a freelance, you went to Elemental. So tell me
Yeah.
about that experience.
Um,
A little bit.
yeah, at cassette they lost the bell account, and so my contract wasn't set up, and I was sort of in the worst place you could be as a young writer, where I was kind of looking for work with only 9 months of a book. And Elemental was this very small shop where I was the only writer, and then there were I think three to four, one art director, and then three designers. So I was sort of working on everything there. Dyson was their biggest account, but I remember we had Shred It. too, which was kind of cool because I could throw
Mm-hmm.
things into the back of the shredder truck. I once shredded a potted plant. But uh, that was a hell of a year. It was pretty much a 24/7 job. And then it was funny right when my contract wasn't renewed at Cassette, I'd been interviewing at it was known as Mccann at the time. And for
Mm-hmm.
some reason, Raph, I wore a tie. I don't know why. In my interviews, I did. I thought that's what you do as an adult man. At interviews, you wear a tie. And it was a
Okay.
year later, the creative director there, when it came around to hire, was like, "What about that tie guy?" So they remembered me because of this dumb tie, and I ended up getting brought in there, and I went from a junior there to intermediate, then left McCann to go to Havas to be a senior to work on Durex and Volvo. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that was a really fun few years and a chance to learn a lot about the way companies are structured. Like you'd think a client like Durex would be very fun, but then you learn that Durex is actually owned by a larger company that also has like Lysol and Airwick and candles, and maybe the people that make cleaning supplies don't have the best sense of what's good for a condom brand.
I
Um,
see.
yeah, but and then I came back to McCann a few years later. You know, kind of full circle.
So, and then at McCann, you came back as a senior copywriter, and then changed to as associate creative director.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That's uh, let me ask you how difficult it is to change from extremely hands-on and busy senior director to more management executive creative director kind of a job. I know it's a progress and you manage a lot of people and go help them go into the creative execution and direction with the strategist, and there's a lot of work. So I just want to know, how was that change from copywriter to ECD?
Um, it's very hard. I think because as especially working so long as a creative and I'm thankful because I'm a working creative director as well as I oversee, so I get to do both. Um,
Cool. That's very
but
cool.
it's hard to make that switch over from doing everything yourself and being so bullheaded, which you have to be to be able to get your ideas anywhere, to becoming a bit more open minded and helping people and ushering them through. It's very rewarding, though, I will say. I mean,
Hmm.
I think it at times even feels better to help a younger team kind of improve and take an idea across the finish line than it does, doing something entirely on your own. But it's definitely an adjustment. It's something I'm still learning. I'm still trying to find my footing at it.
Yeah, I think it's the dream to have a, I don't know, it's kind of a worry about what you dream, because if when your dream comes through, you need to make it happen. So yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a bit scary, right? Like you spend so much time focusing on one aspect of it, which is just to create, to create, to create, and then the next move and the level, the natural progression of your career is now you're responsible for not just work, but
mhm.
people's lives to some degree.
And of course,
Yeah,
and in the other, on the other part of it, of course, you are getting a better salary and you get in a more mature position, and I think it's a natural progression, and
yeah,
it's good too. So there's always the compensation on that part. What I want to go back here to
sure.
Havas, to Havas.
Havas,
I
yeah.
saw Havas. I saw work that he did for the Volvo, the Candavia. Tell me about the process of taking that idea to life.
Which idea? The
The
Scandinavia or
Scandinavia, yeah, Scandinavia.
um
It's
yeah,
the
I
name.
mean that was just an example of us It was really funny. When we started there, we were very upfront because we had just come off working on General Motors for a while, my partner and I, and we were like,
Mhm.
"Hey, we need a break on cars for a bit." And our boss at the time was like, "Yep, you guys are not on cars, you're on directs." And then a team got sick at the same time, and we got
Okay.
a car brief. And then after that brief, we came up with this idea. I mean, and we were on it for the rest of our time there. But it was just an example of, hey, we have. It was trying to be creative in a really small space because we had a lot of footage that was shot globally. Um,
Hmm.
I think in Scandinavia, um, as where Volvo's from, and so we had to find a wrapper for it, some way to contextualize it for Canada. How can we make um, the shots of these cars that are driving around in another country? How can we make that relevant for our own? So um, we just started paralleling some of the weather, some of the terrain, some of the things, some of the ideals that we share as Canadians in that country, and infused it into the campaign, and made up a very dumb word of uh, Scandinavia in the process. But
I like it.
yeah,
I think it's funny. Can you tell a short story of how the commercial is to the listeners? How the commercial works. So I saw all those shots, and then you're
oh,
yeah, because the copy is very good. I love the copy that you did there.
I hope I can remember. You know, honestly, Raph, I don't even know if I can remember. It was so long ago. And this is the other thing. But
It's
one of the things we developed was, I think the structure of the ad was just, welcome to Scandinavia. And then we sort of went through, um, lines that sort of paralleled both, the terrain, the weather, and the cultural kind of connections we had. I remember
Mhm.
that we did an auto show started to take over that was really fun, and we had license plate badging. The campaign though was very. I think it was successful for us because it was a essentially just us putting a layer on top of existing assets, but still finding ways to infuse some creativity into it.
Mhm. No, good. I think because it's as you said, the sandbox to play there was very limited. I can imagine how many restrictions and footage they need to work with,
Yeah.
and to come up with a solution like that, I think that's the reason I think it was a very good. Really, I don't really like it. I have some work. What a work you had for? You have a few work done for Xbox and video games, isn't it? For Xbox.
Yeah, when I first started at McCann, we were working on Xbox and more specific, just for I think the video game Alan Wake, the launch of that. Um, you know, uh, and that was interesting. Working for Xbox is interesting because they're a client that really um, they have a very strong grip on their properties, as you would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I still remember from that campaign. I remember I think my favorite item. The game's located in Bright Falls. It's called, and it's like or something like that. And it's it's a horror motif where you're killed by the darkness, as original as that is. But we made a T-shirt that was covered in blood and glowed in the dark, and it said, "I went to Bright Falls, and all I got was this bloody T-shirt." And it was really popular. I think there's still. I saw one a couple months ago, still on eBay, which is how you know you've created something
Mm.
people want.
So I saw also the piece that is a coffin bus shelter or on the
Yeah,
wall or that kind of stuff too. Cool.
yeah.
So
Uh,
uh, one of the works that impacted me the most that it did was for the Wendy's. There's a lot of different work for Wendy's. The mushroom out
yeah, that was
campaign.
fun. Yeah.
So how to get? I think the idea of using Twitter to change the perception. How was? Can you tell through our listeners, our students at Mohawk,
Sure.
and how was that experience on creating that campaign?
Well, I mean, that one was really simple. We had the people loved the Wendy's bacon mushroom melt, and there was always positive Twitter sentiment right before it arrived, and while it was in market and in stores, people would always tweet about it, and then it would go away, and all the tweets would turn negative, and people would just complain and whine, and it was this um, unfortunate reality of a limited time product. So we just kind of tried
Mhm.
to extend that positive sentiment for as long as we could, where we told people if the more you tweet about this, the longer we'll keep it in the restaurant. And we were able to extend it at least another month and a half longer, but eventually we ran out of mushrooms. Like that wasn't a lie.
Oh my God.
The type of mushrooms that Wendy used, they're like we don't there are none. Like we can't just grow them. I think it, if there's one I would love to talk about, and it was a very recent one, and I don't know if you've seen it as well. It was our Grown with Love campaign.
Not this one.
So
I think the one with the Dave Series X
yes,
and the one that the you have the kind of a plane coming in and then you have the
oh
cheese
yeah, yeah, yeah,
melting.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, the only reason I think the Grown with Love is relevant to talk about it is it's really we did it in the middle of lockdown, in
okay.
the middle of quarantine, and it's a great example of it's the most ambitious campaign I've ever worked on, and we pulled it off while really just getting our heads around this working from home kind of environment. So we were launching Wendy's greenhouse lettuce, uh, and a junior team had a very interesting script about the reason our lettuce is better is because people come into our greenhouse and massage it and play music for it, and it's the lettuce is grown with love. And we saw that, and I had the idea of what if we actually did it for real? What if we actually grew this lettuce with love? And so, kind of similar to the Melt On campaign, we went
Hmm.
to Twitter. Raf, we actually installed speakers into the greenhouse, and then we asked
Wow.
Canada to tweet nice things to our lettuce, and every day we'll play them out. We
Oh
ask
my
people,
God.
help us grow the best lettuce ever. Um, and so we worked with the Royal Horticulture Society, who gave us the exact recommended amount of time to read the lettuce every day.
Hmm.
And then every night I pulled all the tweets from Twitter, and then that next morning I would meet with our this our spokesperson on it, this awesome woman named Rindy who worked for the lettuce company, and she would
Hmm.
record reading out all the tweets, and an hour later it'd be playing in the greenhouse to the lettuce. So it we even did a live stream, Raf, where people could where people when they joined all they saw was our lettuce growing, and then as they typed in chat, their chat messages were being read out to the lettuce, and we had 77,000 people in the middle of quarantine just join to say a few nice words to our lettuce. Uh, I bring it up because I think that Melt On campaign sort of paved the way for getting Wendy's, even though that's a much smaller thing, it paved the way for getting them to think about the impact that social media can have. And
Hmm.
I think the best part was that in the middle of a pandemic when people were, I know I was, you probably know people or were yourself, people were turning to comfort food and burgers more. We had Wendy's selling out of salads. Uh, and then the best thing in it of all was the lettuce actually grew incredibly. It just grew incredibly. It was the greenhouse's like highest yield. They've never seen anything like it. So it was this really weird,
Oh my God.
a really
That's
weird
great to
thing.
hear
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. Weird in a good way. Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
But wow, that's an amazing story. And wow, that should have an amazing KPI and indicator of engagement and everything.
Yeah.
That was really something.
Yeah.
Uh,
We're hoping it does well at awards this year, but we'll see.
I think we do, and I'm impacted to it already. And I think the client was, and I think the public was. So Uh, that's how was the starting of that process, Bill? Let's get to
Yeah.
this. So you got a junior team pitching an idea, and how much work it takes to. So we need to put microphones. You need to get a person. You need to
Yeah.
collect all that team to make this happen and present to the client and pitch the client that crazy idea.
Well,
How is this? This is what I think is that people need to understand how much work you put into a project like this. So,
yeah, it well, first of all, it's an incredible amount of work because you think of it as just all right, we're going to put some speakers in and we're going to read some tweets out, but then you start to unpack it and you realize, okay, we also need to find someone to read them. We need to schedule that. We need to fly out to this greenhouse in the middle of COVID. Um, we can't go in it, so we have to figure out a way to shoot it remotely. The greenhouse doesn't have Wi-Fi or any internet, so we need to
oh,
install all that. It has to be reliable. And then I think the thing that is good to take away from any idea like that, like it starts with an idea like, hey, um, what if we grew our lettuce with what if we had Canadians help us grow our lettuce by sharing love on Twitter? Okay.
mhm.
Now then there's just making it happen, and then there's the flood of assets and media you've got to create around it. The how do you promote it? How do you reward the people engaging? It was a good lesson for me because the team that originally was on it for various reasons were not part of the process. So it was just me and my partner doing the creative, and it was a lot. There's a million little pieces that go into a campaign like that you don't necessarily think of at first.
So what kind of media a campaign did? So it was just social media campaign
Yeah, it was social
into
media.
that?
So it was creating a branded emoji for Twitter, and then it was creating. We did a sponsored hashtag. We did the live stream. We did 5 or 6 15-second spots. We did a live action, about a minute 30 long form film where we had our talent in the greenhouse, sort of explaining it. Uh,
Hmm.
we did custom packaging. So in Wendy's restaurants, when the campaign was over, when you go to buy a salad, you would get it and it would have a sticker on it that said this lettuce was grown with love, and it would feature one of our tweets and explain the process. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, there's a lot of things that every idea starts with a dumb sentence, and then you don't really know what you're getting yourself into. Then there's just months of work, but it was worth it for sure.
Wow, that's very inspiring. Very inspiring, Bill. I just telling you, this is great. Do you have another campaign, McCann, that you're like, oh my god, this is one of the top ones that I made there?
Um,
Did you enjoy working like a lot?
yeah, I've had this weird. I've had a weird thing at McCann where I've done a lot of work with animals, Raph. So we've shot with live
Oh,
goats for Juicy Fruit, but
oh yes, the
recently,
Juicy Good one. Yes,
yeah,
I saw that one.
recently we did a shoot for Coffee Mate with live raccoons, and it will be on. It's about to go on air now, and the whole purpose of the ad is a couple wakes up and there's just raccoons everywhere in their house, and they're just
Oh,
running wild. And the thought is there's no cup of coffee that can save this morning, but a rich and creamy cup of coffee with Coffee Mate. Well, it might. And so they're very dry, and that's something I'm very excited to get out there. It's just film. It is a very opposite example to the Grown with Love because it's just a couple
hmm.
of 15s and 30s, but uh, there's a lot that goes into shooting with live raccoons, including people who claim to be raccoon trainers, but I'm convinced they're just people who sleep with raccoons.
I think I saw on YouTube a raccoon whisper. I think I
The
think there's a channel, the Raccoon Whisper, that he.
Raccoon Whisperer.
Yeah, take a look on YouTube there. This guy goes and give food to every night to 30 or 40 raccoons
Oh
at the
my
same
god.
time. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre, but I would love to see that campaign.
Yeah. Those
Uh,
raccoons are going to turn on him one of these days. You can't
any
control
any any issues during the recording of the ad itself, or any CGI involved, or
that. No, well, no CGI. We just shot. We did have one raccoon we had to fire who was just refused to cooperate and bit a trainer at one point. You know, a very big diva raccoon. Um, but no, it was all practical, and then we just we filmed one raccoon at a time in each scene, and then just put them all in over top of each other on for the edit. So in the edit, it's two people standing in a kitchen with 10 raccoons going crazy, but they were all shot independent. I was very sad that it had to be a remote shoot, and I couldn't be there myself to see
Hmm.
them, but maybe it was for the best because they were vicious.
I'm gonna go now to one campaign that is much simpler than that, but I love this campaign that you're part of the team. The one for the Monster Factory.
Oh
That
yeah, it
oh
was.
yes, though that one is really something. The twist on that part is incredible, accompanied by the music, the soundtrack, the sound that he put it in.
Oh, thank you.
Who's
Yeah,
a monster? Yes, I think it's a very nice campaign. Can you go through the listeners and tell how this campaign is?
sure. So Monster Factory were these really strange but cool plush dolls, and each one was a monster, but each one had sort of a backstory and a personality given to it. And I'd noticed it was an open brief to the agency, and I'd noticed that they all had the look on their face like they'd just seen a car crash or like they all just look so stunned. And so it gave me the idea of thinking about, well, they look like that because they've seen the kind of terrible things that children do. I mean, who are worse than kids? They're the real monsters. And that sort of influenced the campaign. So that one of the ads is a kid playing with a dump truck of his uncle's ashes. The other is a little girl just drawing on the face of her baby sister, and I think the third one is a little girl using a toilet bowl brush like a wand to wake up her older sister, and they all show that the Monster Factory dolls just looking on like holy shit. Um, and we have our tagline of "Who's the real monster." They were very fun.
The way the commercial plays is so funny.
Yeah,
It's very cool.
yeah, yeah. That was an interesting one where uh, it was the agency and the production company split the fees for that. The client actually had no money, but our director wanted to do something great, our agency wanted to do something great, and so we kind of came together to make that happen for them.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
How many of those small but fun briefs come to your table from time to time? Yes, your desk. Yeah.
Um, not as many anymore. I think McCann truly believes in doing our biggest and best work for our biggest and best clients. Um,
I see.
and I appreciate that actually from them. We don't get a lot of work that is fake or done, you know, that
I know what I'm trying to say.
yeah, yeah, you know what I
The
mean.
ghost stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to put any other
Uh,
agencies on blast, but yeah. Yeah, no. But when they do come across, they're always interesting. I mean, I know on Wendy's we have Dave Thomas Foundation for adoption, and that's a thing that we're always trying to do work for. That it's okay if the client doesn't have a lot of money for that. That's an important cause to us, so it's something we want to do great work for. So got a
mhm.
few things planned there, but
Well, it's been almost 35 minutes on the start. We're gonna start now the second part of our interview here, Bill. And I want to hear from you. I have a few questions for you about uh, studio work. first question that I have is, what students can expect the future of working in an agency? And is it a hybrid model that comes in after everybody get vaccinated, or working from home is the new standard now? What do you think that? What do you think the new, or where people are talking to the new work model will be?
Oh, that's such a great question. You know, I know that our agency and a lot of agencies have switched to, the old days of you come in and you have your desk and you've got your drawers and they're filled with booze bottles and ketchup packets. I think those days are done. It's more of now a collaboration space where you'll come in when you want to work with smaller or larger groups. But I think we've saw a lot of success working from home, and especially with using Microsoft Teams and video calling, that I think for the next year or two, a lot of agencies will adopt that structure. But I do feel, Raf, that the second one of the big agencies starts putting out press that their entire family, family as they like to say, of employees are back in the office and we're all together under one roof. Once some agency starts making a lot of noise like that, I think you will see a lot of agencies, possibly mine included, shift back to a more permanent in the office sort of vibe. But I don't know. It's hard to predict. I do miss the agency environment though.
I can imagine
It
that.
was fun.
It's the same with me with the classroom. I
Yeah.
miss the classroom tremendously. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some energy there that you cannot replicate with this kind of environment right now.
That's a
Even
great
though,
way to
yeah,
put it.
hmm
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can't compare to having a group of people in a room, all like, especially creatives. I mean, they're people bounce off each other. Um,
one thing that we include in our curriculum because of this pandemic was definitely the more attention to softwares like the Slack or Trello or
yeah.
those kind of project management stuff. So to then and then of course the remote part of it. So they need to learn how to present remotely. They need to know how to handle that kind of stuff and organization when it comes to files and dates, and that's something that we're trying to address to the students, so they are left the college already not being completely in the dark about
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Even though the kids nowadays are very uh, versatile on that kind of stuff on that kind of software. So
I can
what
imagine.
what do you I would imagine what kind of recommendations you will give to the students, because I guarantee you see at least $200 and 200 portfolios books a year.
Yeah.
So and people send you links and send you stuff. Please take a look. Please interview. Please hire me
Yeah.
all the time. And you guys are bombarded by all the colleagues and people trying to get back to the business. So how? What are the basic mistakes that you see nowadays coming from the students that you hope like somebody needs to tell people to stop doing this, or
Well,
how? Yeah.
I'm so glad you've asked me this, Raf.
Yeah.
I want people to listen really hard to these next 2 points. Show less. So one of the biggest, I don't want to call it a pet peeve, but because it's just a hindrance to the person with a book, where you get sent a link to work and there's 20 things, and um, that's a lot to ask of someone, especially when they're very, very busy, and especially when you're cold, just sending them your book cold. Um, pick your top 6 killer things, and it's a good lesson to learn early of self-selection and killing, as they say very often. I try not to because it is morbid, but kill your babies. So what are your 6 best things that represent you, what shows some variety? um, the other thing I would really, really recommend books now are getting so wild, and I really like that. Like the quality and the variety of ideas. You'll get an idea about that's just as much about saving the world as it is an ad campaign. And that's really,
Hmm.
really great. And we want to see that you've got amazing ideas. But at the end of the day, me personally as a writer and someone who's going to be working with you on writing, I got to see some writing. And my art director partner laments about this too. He wants to see something designed and art directed, something crafted. So, um, you know, the big, the big ideas are amazing and they do show what you can do, but show a little love to the craft. I mean, especially because the first few years of your career, you're going to be doing things more that are a little bit of a smaller scale. You're going to be writing a lot of social copy, and you're going to be doing those a little bit smaller things. You will have plenty of
Hmm.
opportunities to pitch on the big ideas, but um, the books that stand out to me are where people can show that they care about the craft still.
It's not the first time that I hear that.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear that kind of stuff. So, uh, what are the ones who have the most chance? The Is that networking is everything that people refer to each other? I have this team to send you, and how hard it is to send, as you said, a book in the code and get at least an interview. How hard is that?
Um, I actually think that it's better than ever in that regard. I think a lot of doors are opening. I think for a long time, this industry was, yes, it's all who you know. But more than ever now, agencies are switching to models where they're not even allowing um, people who work there to recommend books. So, for example, like if I see an amazing book, it's discouraged of me to pass it up the ladder because it's providing a little bit of bias and it's leading to maybe agencies hiring the same type of people over and over again. So a lot more agencies are shifting to a model where there's one person that collects the work and then it's passed on and reviewed at higher levels. And it's less about having your buddies get you a job and more about the most interesting work and interesting people win. And I think that is great for people starting out in this industry. Uh, I know for me, uh, I'm pretty good about if I'm sent something, I'll look at it for sure. But uh, also, I would recommend people. I think this is pretty common knowledge. Like I don't know, write something or include something in it that is indicative of you. It makes you. I don't mean stand out necessarily, but at least represents who you are a little bit. Because I'm getting a message on LinkedIn. Um, there's not really much there that captures who you are as a person, and I'm often way more interested in that a lot of times than necessarily just the book. Um,
That's a very nice thing to say because I think it's as well as you want to work with a person who has the ideas and the craft. You want to work with good people, who people will have a good relationship with.
yeah,
And I think you can notice right away if the person will not be a good fit for the agency model. I think every agency have their own kind of a culture, and I
yeah.
think there are subcultures inside the agency. But I think uh, how do you think a student should work? Do you think the student should look for the big agencies, or they should look for working house first, or
Hmm.
to having a small medium agency job at first? What do you would be a good suggestion for them?
That's a tough question. I've been fortunate to work at sort of all three, from very very small to medium to McCann being pretty big. I don't think it matters. I think when it comes to getting your first job, the most important thing is getting into the industry. You know, um,
Hmm.
getting in and getting a chance, and then from the second you're in, just over deliver to the point of being annoying on every ask. So even if you're briefed on a dumb social post that only has a day to do, go hard on it and come back with stuff that sure, maybe we can't do, but it will get noticed, and it will. And just if you over deliver on the small stuff, it shows people you're ready for the bigger asks, I think. And that's true at a small shop to a big shop.
Going to the next level now, can you tell me stuff that junior people do that annoy you like hell?
Yes, happily. I've just finished 23 reviews.
Oh, okay.
So I have, you know, okay, I don't. This is not going to get personal. I am gonna.
Not me person.
Because I'm
But
coming in hot on this one, Ralph.
Okay.
You know, if you want to be in advertising, people will know, and if you like it, people will know, and if you absolutely hate it, people will know that too. You know, when you eat something delicious, sometimes people will say, you can taste the love. If a writer or a creative doesn't enjoy what they're doing, I can read the contempt. So I think it's being honest with yourself and talking to your supervisors and talking with your friends and family. And if you don't enjoy it and you don't like it, either find a situation that's better for you or seek elsewhere. I think that one of the toughest things is working with people who just hate advertising. And that one's a little bit deep. I think one of the overlooked aspects, Raph, is presenting. One of the reasons I have become successful is
good point.
Yeah, I think I'm a good presenter, and the best advice I can give to students is become accustomed to letting your work speak for itself. Don't narrate it. Present it and add interesting comments about it. How did you get to this idea? Why it's a great idea, why it works, little bonus things about it. Add color versus just getting up there and reading and narrating and but really just boring everyone. A thing to remind yourself constantly when you're presenting creative to a client that this is probably their most interesting meeting of the day. And they look forward to this. So you want to bring charm and personality, and you don't have to be buttoned up all the time. You can be yourself, as long as who you are is not terrible.
So do you think there's a lot of lack of presentation skills being taught on the schools overall? You seen it?
It's tough. I mean, and if you're not a great presenter, you're not doomed. But make sure your partner is.
Okay.
Because it's not for everyone. It's public speaking is not something everyone enjoys, and it's not everyone's cup of tea. But I do see a lot of partners who neither one of them has that sort of want or skill set, and it holds them back for sure.
Well, I have to ask now. Let's come back to the college itself. Can you tell me another memory that you have from Mohawk, that you have from those years? Like, this is the time that I feel like this is for me, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Is there a specific turning point that, besides the first year creative in business, is there a specific project or something like I can do this? I can.
Yeah. By the third year, I knew that this was what I wanted to do and that I could be successful at it. And it wasn't because necessarily I was the smartest or most creative, but because I felt that I stood out and I felt that I had a perspective in my work that was, when I looked around the room at everyone else's, my work felt different. And not to say that that's always a good thing, but at the time it felt like it for me. I do remember being so obsessed with the creative part of it that I neglected some of my other classes, which I wouldn't recommend. So I think I remember I was in a class called stress management, and the irony of it was the most stressful class I've ever been in because I did an entire semester's worth of projects in one night, up to like 5 a.m, or just because I was so focused on the advertising classes. I don't know how it's
Oh,
structured.
it was an elective.
I think so.
Elective,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know if I had to take it or what, but yeah, it wasn't. It didn't serve me. No stress was managed in that
Hmm.
class, but yeah, I loved those days, and you know what? Those days really do hold a lot of the things I like about advertising, which is just being in a room with a bunch of creative people and
Hmm.
coming out with walking into the room with an idea and coming out with something better. I think is a very fun experience, and one of the things that I really can't wait till we get back to in advertising.
Uh, do you think uh, the next do you what do you think the next way to do creative is? Is the big data saying complex apps or VR? What is the trends that you think will happen in the future? So when it comes to technology craft that the students in a few years need to know by the back of their hand. So
Oh man, um, I don't, I don't know. We are we are every day just consuming, and I mean when I say we, I mean creatives. I know me especially, just consuming what is the latest meme, what is just trying to stay on that exact cutting edge of culture, because I think once advertising in my opinion is usually about a year behind culture. In other words, we're always catching up a little bit on what the coolest thing is, but there are a few outliers who find a way to just um, hit something right away. I don't know if I have an answer there. I think um, you know, finding ways to integrate advertising in ways that are interesting and not creepy. So, like very targeted advertising, and Google especially pushed this stuff where they're like, yeah, we've got a machine where you can write 100 headlines and that'll automatically send it out to people. If they walk out of the grocery store, they'll get your grocery store line. And I'm like, that's cool, but it's also kind of creepy. Uh, Finding ways to entertain people without being too invasive, I think. And I don't know if that's a great answer, but it's something I struggle with, is like, as we start to learn more and more about people and get more access to data, using it
mhm.
responsibly, I think is something the agency needs to, the industry needs to wrap.
Especially with the Alexas, the Google Homes, and the geofencing and the geographic targeting and everything. So there's so much stuff that if your privacy is
Right.
distributed everywhere, your data is distributed
Right. Like we're
everywhere.
even now trying to think about how to use the new technology. Like we saw that Jack Dorsey sold the first tweet ever. Uh,
Oh,
and I think it's NFTs. Is that what it is?
yes, NFTs,
Yeah.
yes.
And so
I've seen
that's
some of
really
that.
interesting to us at Wendy's, where we're like, well, what do we have that we could put out there and sell to benefit Dave Thomas Foundation, for example? And just
Hmm.
thinking about that. Yeah, Raf, every day something new comes out, and every day we're thinking about how to use it to do something interesting in advertising.
That's just the most amazing thing because it's never boring. It's
Yeah.
almost the next step, the next thing, and the
Yeah.
thing. This is what makes this work great.
Yeah.
If we're in the front of a classroom of first years and second years creative and third years, what are the final words to them, Bill? What are your final recommendations to the students?
Oh, shit.
Uh,
I don't know. It sounds so cheesy, but like, um, don't lose yourself. So, one of the easiest things I think to have happen to people when they enter this industry is the parts of themselves that make them an interesting art director or an interesting writer in the first place. So you get so consumed because the workload is heavy. You're expected to uh, really stay up on every new amazing ad. But I don't lose yourself. Don't lose who you are, and follow culture more than advertising. When I interview someone and they don't know a meme or what a TikTok trend, and I do, I'm annoyed because I'm like, you're the young one here. I'm the old man. I shouldn't know this stuff. Like, I shouldn't know what TikTok dance is trending, but I do because I think it's important and sometimes hilarious. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good answer, but that's something.
It is. It is a good answer. It was a good answer, Bill. Come on. I have one last question, Bill. It's completely coming back to the ones before. Uh, what uh, how it is to have brainstorming and have campaigns with Mccann offices from all over the world.
Hmm.
Do you have that kind of relationship? How the students should be prepared to work with teams and briefs from other countries, adaptations of briefs, that kind of stuff, or talk to people?
Um, it's always an exciting opportunity to get in on a brief in another market, especially, and it happens a lot with pitches. We just recently won the Skip the Dishes work, which is a Just Eat. That's a global company, and that was a pitch between us and where we are contributing to work out of the London office. The realist answer I would say is, you got to give it your everything because it's a chance to do something different. And anytime you can get work that could be potentially international, it's exciting. But you also have to be realistic and know that everything, as soon as it goes out your office to another, it has a lower chance than ever of getting made. But
How come?
uh, Well, I think just because the nature of the industry, and you'll see it. It's really challenging as a junior sometimes because you feel like your superiors in creative prefer their ideas to yours.
I see.
But you learn over time that they must know what they're doing to some degree to be there, and you kind of learn that about other offices. They know their market,
Mm-hmm.
and they know their client. So even if it feels like they're doing trash and could be doing a lot better, and your idea is a million times more amazing, there's probably a pretty good reason why it's not right. Yeah.
Bill, is there a expectation from besides the craft that a student need to know how to edit a video or photograph or edit audio, that kind of stuff,
No.
or there's it just for the production companies or production studio in the
Yeah,
agency?
no, that stuff's all just bonus. I mean, and if I were coming in, I wouldn't admit to being able to edit video because you'll just end up having to do it. I think an art director that can take their own photographs is always appreciated, especially when um, you're doing smaller things and where budgets are maybe more limited, but an idea can really be made amazing with just a few simple photographs, and even like a studio that you've set up yourself in the agency. I've seen that a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Photography certainly more so than editing. Um, you know,
Illustration,
yeah,
illustrate and drawing, that kind of
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Illustration is another bonus. It's something that typically we work with illustrators.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're amazing at illustration, though, heck, that's just another awesome reason to
I
choose
see.
you. But it's not an expectation at all. But it's a bonus. I worry sometimes with skills like that where you may, I probably shouldn't say this, but
No, that's
where you may get taken advantage of. For instance, instead of paying that $10,000 or $5,000 fee to the illustrator, they just get the art director to work through the night to do it. But it certainly has, I've seen at times, sold through work that maybe wouldn't have if it didn't have that bit of extra craft to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Bill, thank you so much for your time. So I think, can I give your website to everybody? The
Sure. The
VS Copy?
bscopy.com. Yeah. I probably should update it. That's the other thing, that the piece of advice I'll give that I don't follow: update your site. Put your new stuff on there. I'm 6 or 8 months behind right now, but yeah, of
but
course.
but that's fine. How is there if some of the students in second year, third year is want to contact you for
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
quick review? Okay, perfect. I'll let them know that you need to say that you heard here on the Rapscast. And we heard here the very busy executive creative director of Mccann Canada, Schaefer. So thank you so
Associate
much.
creative director. Associate creative director.
Associate creative director. Sorry about that.
Not executive yet. We're working, Raf. We're trying here.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I will cut that out from the audio. Let's try again. Uh, Thank you so much from taking the time from your extremely busy schedule, Bill, to associate creative director from Mccann Canada, to give former alumni from our Mohawk College advertising program. And it was amazing to hear your stories. Amazing to see all your insight about the industry. And I hope we can grab a coffee soon,
Yeah,
physically.
absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
it's been too long.
Yeah, no,
It's,
please.
it's,
Once I've been vaccinated like 6 or 7 times, please let me come in and talk to your
same.
class. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same for sure. Bill, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you,
Okay.
Raf.
Thank you. We're inside here. Until next time, Rapscast, Tales from MohawkAd.